They're in alignment. And it's time again. The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And happy Halloween.
If you're new to the genre of horror, or just beginning to explore the more depraved films in the collection, you may happen upon the term video nasty. A video nasty was a term created by Mary Whitehouse of the National Viewers and Listeners Association. It was used to describe a multitude of graphic or obscene films being distributed in the UK during the 1980s. This all started when films like Driller Killer and Cannibal Holocaust marketed themselves with their extreme depictions of violence, rape, and whatever else one could expect to find in exploitation films. The whole debate on violence in films, among other things, is nothing new. If you take a brief search on the subject, you can find a 1968 interview with Christopher Lee discussing the topic.
What do you think is the major appeal of horror? Why are we drawn to it?
Principally, I suppose, escapism, because it's utterly unlike our real lives, which I suppose today are inclined to be perhaps humdrum.
Even to this day, we still have the strange complaints of mature media depicting mature topics. Violence, sex, even drugs have come up in one way or another. To state that a piece of entertainment has pushed the letter too far has become the straw to break the camel's back and plunge us into a 24/7 purge situation. Let's ignore the multitude of data that disproves this notion and idiotic push at infantilization of adults and look at a video game that proved to be a first on many fronts despite its lack of much meat. That title is the 1982 Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the Atari 2600. The game is somehow more simple than Haunted House from the last video. I'll let you figure out which one of those I meant. Being developed by VSS, or Video Software Specialist, which is not the most original of names, and it's published by Wizard Video Games. You take on the role of the primary antagonist of the film, Leatherface, as you pursue your victims from the left to the right, activating your chainsaw when going in for the kill. Each one netting you 1,000 points, meanwhile your fuel depletes with each use. Every 5k gives you additional fuel. I hope you find the concept novel, because that is the entire game. The complication comes from various obstacles that will halt the pursuit of Leatherface, even if there's zero reason his hitbox should have connected. Also, the girls can prove rather evasive. More than once they seemingly slipped by, resulting in me wasting fuel. When you do get them, I'm confused on what I'm seeing. I guess it's meant to be a pile of gore, but how the hell am I supposed to put that on a meat hook? Editor's note, but after looking at it a fair bit more, I think it's supposed to be them strung upside down with a puddle of blood under them. Sort of like Pam from the film, though she wasn't upside down. Now, given that you're playing a slasher and your targets are women running in fear, you can pretty easily tell why this game garnered controversy. So much so that retailers outright refuse to stock the title. Personally, I would just tell people it's rather shit. For a start, the game just looks ugly. I realize this is Atari 2600, but there were some games that actually looked decent for their time on the system. While I could point out how the scale is all off from the house, the truck, and the trees, I'd instead like to direct your attention to the chainsaw. Why is it the color of Leatherface? It makes it look like he's chasing these girls with a studded dick. Also, the things blocking you are so strange. I guess Texas does have fences and bones, but the amount of wheelchairs is insane. Yes, the film had one guy in a wheelchair, but I don't think they came stocked with a few dozen of these. Also, the sounds are just terrible. The chainsaw is constantly making a sputter noise, while its actual attack sound is meh at best. The worst part of this title is the ear-piercing noise whenever you locate a victim. I'll play it, and I'll play it with the volume lowered way down. Now, according to rumors I've found, it's meant to be their Scream, but after just a few of those, I realized this game is garbage, and the more I played, the more my headache would worsen. Video software specialist, huh? Well, they sure aren't audio specialists. Also, what makes this weird is the box art depicts a man holding a firearm. I'm not really sure why, since we never meet anyone like that in the game. In fact, there really isn't any opposition to our killer. You could say this is a power fantasy or meant to make you feel like you're Leatherface in the film, but I don't remember the part where he got a wheelchair after wheelchair thrown in his fucking face. I'm starting to feel more like Ghostface in Scary Movie. But Wizard wasn't done with Atari or horror fans just yet, because in 1983 they would bring us another attempt with Halloween by Micrographic Image. If you thought the last game looked cheap, Halloween is shopping discount while clipping coupons. You'd think at least they'd ship with some decent art, right? I mean, Halloween has some iconic scenes and artwork. Well, come this point, Wizard was starting to liquidate a ton of its company. So to save on sales, they shipped out copies with tape and a title written in orange marker. I suppose someone thought to try and be a little bit Halloween-y with the color. But I was raised never to judge a book by its cover, so let's take a look inside. Looking at the glass half full, the level design is an improvement over Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's 2 hallways, each crossing at the far-flung ends, though you can duck in the doorways to, I think, go up and down floors. In this game, you're playing the babysitter, Laurie Strode, and have to evade Michael Myers while saving as many children as possible. Also, we've started, but I do want to say that the game's cover of the Halloween theme is actually pretty good. And if you're thinking it sounds good, I'm sorry to say it, but they found a way to fuck it up. The music only plays when Michael is on screen, and since your first instinct is to run, all you'll ever be catching is the first few notes of the theme. I guess I should be happy that Michael actually doesn't look terrible. Helps he doesn't have a studded cock. Oh look, a knife! Oh great, now Laurie has the cock. The game isn't super deep. If you see a child, grab them and run to one of the 4 safe rooms, 2 at each end of the hallways. Get 5 children or stab Michael twice, and you move up a level with him going faster. Making your life harder is that some areas on the 2nd floor have malfunctioning lights. Michael is pretty easy to run around, but it can still lead to a surprise death. Actually, what happens when you die? You get your head chopped off and run around. I'm not gonna lie, that's way more brutal than I would have expected. Also, be careful as well, you have 3 lives, and after being killed you do run to another segment of the house. Michael can still pop up almost immediately behind you for another stab. The kids are isolated to the bottom section of the rooms that you're in, so they're pretty safe. Jumpin' jack-o'-lanterns! He just murdered a kid? This is something games to this day are hesitant to do. Not that I'm complaining. I personally see no problem with showing children the bright light at the end of the tunnel. But to pull that off in 1983 is wild to think about. I mean, we're right in the middle of the satanic panic, and just a decade out from Doom in 1993. Needless to say, this did not earn the game much favor. Many stores refused to sell, and those that did often kept it behind the counter on a request-only basis. Of course, the packaging was so cheap that many thought it was a scam. While Halloween is an improvement over the prior title, it's clear to see why they stopped making games, with only a movie trivia title serving as their final release. The distributor as a whole would shutter in 1988, while its creator Charles Band, known for being a producer on B films, would go on to open Full Moon Productions, who you may know for classics like Puppet Master, Killjoy, Evil Bong, or Ginger Dead Man. I will cover those one day. Also, yes, Full Moon did relaunch Wizard, and there are a few games they've been involved with. No clue if they're good. Someone tell me when the Killjoy game is released. I think the lesson to take away from all of this is that no matter what, there will always be people crying, think of the children, when the products they're crying over only require them to be good parents. That and don't try selling your game with its name written on tape.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.